Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Outlawed Live, December 9th. Here we are, second week of December. Going to kind of pick up where we left off last week. Ron and I were talking about all the off-season shakings and happenings, things that are going on. And I tell you what, we're at that point now where the main thing that happens in the off-season really starting to heat up out there, actually heating up more quickly than I remember it happening in the past. And that's looking like the who's in and the who's out and what's going on at the National Farm Machinery Show. So let us know where you're watching from tonight. Let us know what questions you have for the outlaw world out there. And after I talk a little bit about the National Farm Machinery Show, we're also going to bring on Roper Brown, who's waiting in the back room right now. And he is kind of our liaison and our main representative of the Outlaw Young Guns program. Going to tell us all about that. And then Ron Stone should be joining us just as soon as he can get all of his technological devices up and running. He told me today he's got a brand new computer set up. So he was kind of getting through all the login codes and everything such as that. So hopefully Ron's going to be joining us. But have you guys been paying attention to what's been going on in social media concerning National Farm Machinery Show, Louisville, Kentucky? Right now, I haven't sat down and compiled my full outlaw list. I haven't kind of done any sort of lists as to who's in and who's out. I've just been watching pullers making posts, and it's really interesting to kind of see what's going on out there. And I've got a post that I want to share just as soon as I welcome some of you guys to the show out there. Tina and Eric Berger saying hello from Wilbur, Nebraska. Thank you for watching like always, guys. And Cole Lundahl, good evening from Wakefield, Nebraska. Thanks for tuning in. Hope everything's going well out there. So I'm going to go ahead and present. Let me see if I can get my screen share right up here. The Joe Bush Ag Repair Facebook page. I saw made a cool post right here about a lot of their big-time customers. Each one of these, it looks like, has received an invitation and followed up on an invitation to go dancing at the big show there at Freedom Hall, National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, Kentucky. So you can see a lot of outlaws already making big waves, making us proud out there. So just kind of going around this. It looks like Gary Barrett in the High Stakes Horsepower Limited Pro Stock is going to be there. Looks like Dave Novak and the Mean Farmer has been accepted in the Limited Pro Stock class. And then a couple of really interesting super farms. You know, it seems there's a lot of news, a lot of talk going on the internet right now about the super farm class. And we're seeing that class undergo some changes, maybe transitioning to a different level in some other associations. Ron and I talk about it a lot. We really feel that the super farms are some of the strongest tractors that we have to offer and some of the best competition in the Outlaws. Good to see they're alive and well. So Mark Roberts and the Roberts pulling team with the Spanky's toy looks like they're going to be headed to Louisville again. A perennial power out there. And it looks like Jared Johansson and the Blaze of Glory. Big congratulations to him for making it in, as well as it looks like Joe Bush with his tractor up there also. So congratulations to each of those. Just kind of neat that we see some of those outlaws already kind of cashing in on that invitation to the big dance out there in Louisville. So very, very cool. We'll check and see who else is got what going on. Let us know where you're at. Let us know what's going on this evening. We definitely have time to entertain some questions if you guys are just wanting to sit there and kind of freelance, much like Ron and I did last week. Ben Beller wants to know, has Blaze of Glory ever pulled in Freedom Hall? Not to my knowledge. I've been keeping up with Louisville for about the past 5 years. Definitely can't speak for big time. I know that Jared has pulled out there in the Gordiwana, Shipshawana, the big indoor pulls that they've had for the single charger classes. I don't know that he's pulled in Louisville before, but he had a great season, picked up a win this year. So very excited to see him going out to the National Farm Machinery Show, which will, of course, be the second week in February. Doug Voth checking in. Hope everything's going good down in Texas. Thanks for watching. Brad Nagy says, good evening from Western Pennsylvania. Interested in hearing about the Young Gun program. Yeah, we are too, and you've got the right man for the job. Tell us about it. Chris Pierce, hello. Thanks for watching. Hope everything is going awesome where you're at. And Josh Atterbury says, listening at work from Fulton, Missouri, right down the road. I announced an antique pull in Fulton at the very tail end of the summer months. So thank you for tuning in. My wife actually graduated college in Fulton, so we've got some fond memories down there in Central Missouri. So thanks for tuning in to Outlawed Live. So yeah, National Farm Machinery Show coming up. It's on the horizon, as well as our Young Gun program making some moves. And, we really want to get to a point where we can tell you guys more about what's happening in the future with the Outlaws, what the next generation is going to be looking like, and just everything with that Young Gun program. I see Ron has made his way backstage. I don't think he's able to kind of manipulate the backstage program, so we'll bring him on here in just a moment. We'll caught up with these, make sure that he's settled in and ready to go. Chris Pierce says he's from Southeast South Dakota, so thank you for checking in. Marty Samuelson says, great to see Gary going to Louisville. Mike, looks like you have fun with the kids coaching. Yeah, we're having a good time. Actually, I'm staying very hands-off coaching my sons. I had a very involved sports career, and at this point, I'm kind of just taking a back seat and letting them develop. But yeah, if you've seen my kids, I've been posting some pictures online of them playing basketball. We appreciate the support as we start that new chapter in their lives. Well, I think the voice of the Outlaws is ready to go. Ron Stone, brand new computer and everything. How we doing, sir?
Doing good, Mike. Sorry, I did not see that link. I kept searching, and finally, I was looking over it there. So, yeah, good to be on. I'm in Indianapolis this week for the big PRI show. Taking some video today, but mostly all set up going on right now. So, a lot of cool stuff over there. I know the PPL group has the IHRA group has the Thorn modified tractor in there, the Owens tractor 4-engine mod, and then Full Pull Live also has the Foursome 4-engine mod in their booth. So pulling represented early already as they're set up, and I'm sure we're going to see some more pulling vehicles in there too. But drag racing and all forms of racing and motorsports represented here in Indianapolis this week.
Let me ask you this, because PRI is something that I was not necessarily super familiar with until about 1 to 2 years ago. Big motorsports, big technological development. If you're a gearhead, it's the place to be. Is the footprint that pulling is tractor pulling making a larger imprint at PRI every year? You talk about multiple mods, multiple booths set up. Are we gaining traction, so to speak, at this venue?
I haven't been to PRI enough over the years to say whether it has increased in the time I've been going. My first year was 2019. Tractor pulling did have a good a showing in 2019. I think it's probably larger now than it was, with the 4-engine mods in there. There'll be a pulling sled in there, I know for certain. Actually, one of the signs in front of one of the exhibition halls says PRI, and actually has an international, like a super stock tractor on the sign, not a race car of any sort, but a pulling tractor, which is cool to see at an event that is pretty much dominated by racing. Performance
racing industry, is that what does PRI stand for? And that's just, well, and it's kind of a market to anybody who's interested in horsepower. Would that be a good blanket term for it?
Yeah, you'll see everything at PRI, from a spark plug manufacturer to a clutch manufacturer, dealer, to trailer dealers and manufacturers, tires, wheels, insurance, motorsports insurance, marketing, motorsports marketing outlets. There's a little bit of everything, media. Things like that. Anything involved with racing, man, it's here. It is. If you've never been, if you're a gearhead, you've got to go. Get you some really good walking shoes, though, because if you want to see everything, you're going to put some steps in. So I mean, everything you're talking about, very reminiscent of the National Farm Machinery Show, with just exhibitions and things moving straight to that, that group of people and that same mindset. Yet instead of being agricultural specific, it's more horsepower, internal combustion engine kind of people that are into the things that most of our viewers are into, as well, of course, as they're into the ag industry. Like you said, that put your walking shoes on, because we always say that at Louisville. If you go down there, you think it's big, and then it just keeps on coming. So speaking of PRI and Louisville, we've kind of been sitting here chatting about
who's in and who's out. And we've already seen some congratulatory posts on Facebook. We've seen a lot of our guys are headed to Louisville. So I was kind of churning a conversation about that. We saw Jared Johansson is going to be making his debut at the farm show this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Louisville won't know what hit him, Mike.
So we were debating his history when it comes to indoor pulling. And so Cole's got the backstory right here. He said Blaze of Glory will be one of the rookies in Louisville, but it'd be interesting to see how he does. I remember the Midwest Winter National this year treating him really well. Of course, he's pulled out there, Shipshewana, Gordyville, those places. Big personality, great personality, a hard-nosed competitor. I always call him Mr. Consistent. He's a top 5 every time. And it'll be fun to see if he just drives that thing aggressively and see what he does out there. But we also saw, I was looking at the Joe Bush Facebook page, and he had several of his customers are going to be out at Louisville this year. Gary Barrett's going to be there, as well as Dave Novak. It looked like the Roberts team with Spanky's Toy is going to be out there. So a lot of our guys already making waves. I haven't sat down and done a tally yet. I know that's something you and I usually like to do, is kind of write down how many we can claim from our camp. It seems like it's early. Is winter getting away from us? But, man, it seems like the letters made their rounds a little quicker this year.
Is it quicker or later? It seems like we'd have already been talking about it. I'm not sure. But, Super Farm. Yeah, a couple of Super Farms in there. Those guys will have to change their setups, turbo-wise and such.
Yep.
And, so that kind of puts them, a little bit of a disadvantage. Of course, everybody's pulling on that, a different indoor pull, but some of the Super Farms that are in there, they have the same setup and pull on that same dirt every year. So Robert's been there a few times, so he knows what that dirt is like. Now Johansson, just grab that lower gear, because it's a good fighting track there. So,
but no, it'll be fun. It's always one of my favorite things to do, to sit down and make our list of, we got 14 competitors in, 19 competitors in, 22 competitors in. It's always fun, and it's exciting to log on to Facebook and see the Outlaws already trickling into Freedom Hall with 2 months to go. So the future is bright. Speaking of future, Young Gun program, let's talk to our Mr. Young Gun right here, Roper Brown. Now, I've not been giving your title correctly. I keep talking about you are our main liaison from the Young Guns. You are our primary representative. What's your official title in the Young Guns program with the Outlaws?
So my official title, it would be like the Young Gun representative for the male side. That's what it is.
I'm gonna hang a new title on you right now, Roper. It just came to me, and I think this may stick, but I think you're the CEO of the Mullet Mafia. Okay, so get the printers warmed up. Start making those stickers. Getting those stickers out right now. The Mullet Mafia here, Roper Brown, out of Oklahoma.
I want to know who else he's going to induct into the Mafia with him as these Young Guns keep coming and the mullet makes its resurgence. Are you the sole proprietor? Are you the only mullet puller that we have? Or are you starting to see some of your competitors and some of your friends, often imitated, never duplicated, but who else is rocking the mullet in the pulling world?
I really no one that I know of.
Yep.
Honestly. I've had it since 7th grade.
Mike, have you ever had a mullet, Mike?
So I'm told that in my year one, that in my course, I was born in 1990. I was born at the height of Joe Diffie and just Travis Tritt and all of them and whatnot. So I had a mullet when I was a toddler, but nothing I was ever conscious and aware of myself. So I'm just glad that I've still got anything. We're pushing the back half. We're closer to 40 than 30, so I'm just glad it's still there.
Yeah, so Roper rocking the mullet. Roper, what's going on with the Young Guns, buddy? 2026 is going to be a great year, I think.
So with the Young Guns right now, we, like what was said at the banquet, we lowered the age from 16 to 14 to try and help get in younger people that are, that they can't drive due to insurance for Outlaws, but still it'll help bring in more people from the younger generation to help build Young Guns.
Now, you also lowered the maximum age too, right?
Yes. So now instead of it being, I think, what was it, 25? It's 21 now, because at 21, you're getting out of college, or, that's when you're truly a legal adult.
Yeah, that's drinking age. That's when you graduate from root beer to actual beer out of the young guns, because you young characters never drink beer, right? That's
definitely not.
Who said nope? I heard somebody say nope. Is that mom in the background saying nope?
Yes. That was her.
Is there, so Dale Bartles wants to know, does that mean that you become a member of the Old Guns program when you age out, be it 21 or 25, one way or another? Ron, is that what we're calling it, or seasoned? Is that what they are at that point?
The Musket Mafia. How about that?
The Old Guns. I like that. No, I think that's a good call, because I'd always kind of wondered about that. Hitting that 21 to 25 range, I mean, not only are you're able to go to the bar at that point, you've probably been pulling for a while at that point. I mean, we see people getting married, last names changing. You're truly at a different point. So I can imagine that your investment with this group, whose mission is really to target the next up and coming youth, you can kind of see yourself transitioning. So seeing more of a 14 to 21 age gap, I think that's more of where you want it. Talk to us about the mission of the Young Guns. You guys are trying to be leaders and just get as many young folks in pulling as possible.
So the mission for, the Outlaw Young Guns is we're trying to grow pulling, because always pulling is a dying sport. You're going to have these people out there when they're real little, they're going to be like, ooh, look at this truck or tractor going down the track. I want to do that one day. And so with our accomplishment that we all agreed on to lower the age to 14, this will be able to help, get younger kids in there at the polls, or, that's traveling with their parents or grandmas, grandmas, grandpas, maws and paws, just to try and help get more young guns in the group, try and grow it more than what we have right now, because it's a dying sport and we just want to make it better.
How much do you guys interact with? I see a lot of the things you do at the tracks, interacting with the fans, and then you being more relatable too. If there's a 15-year-old kid out there and he looks at you, he's going to feel like you're much more approachable than someone who's, been pulling a long time. What are some of your activities you guys will do, on a weekend basis for the Young Gun program?
So what we normally do, some of the bigger pulls, which I want, some of the smaller pulls that a lot of us young guns are at, I want to be able to get more out there, more go interact with the younger, with younger people, that's younger than me or my age or a little bit older, that want to be interested in the young guns. But what we have done is, like, for example, Iowa State Fair, we had a pedal pull that we hosted there. Mm-hmm. And that basically we get all the kids out there, be able to say, oh, hey, these kids are part of this program, and then that they do this. Maybe one day we might be able to try a little bit of that, or be able to experience it firsthand, right next to the vehicle.
Yeah, so I just want to say the Young Guns program is I like to say that it started on this show. I started referring to the 16-year-olds on the track as the Young Guns, and Dave Nelson will say, hey, I think you got something there. We need to do something with that, and the rest is history. But I just want to correct you. I don't think pulling is a dying sport, but I think it's always going to have a following. We have a following that's always going to be there. Like the people that watch this show every Tuesday night religiously at 7 p.m., those are your diehard fans, man. They're going to be there week in and week out. Those are your ride or dies. What we want to do is reach out to those folks that are like, I've heard of that pulling stuff, that mud pulling, or, all the things they call it. Tell me, Roper, you probably heard it, your friend. What is that? Mud racing, mud pulling, right? I mean, Mike, have you heard that? People just don't know.
There's such a misconception of what it is. And I think what Roper's talking about too is the uphill battle that we find ourselves in. We don't have the generational, I don't even want to say wealth, but if we were comparing ourselves to, trust fund families out there, you've got your NASCAR and you've got your Monster Jam, or even football and baseball, these guys that have just been mega horses for a long time. And pulling, we're the ones that are, at a regional level, going to a national level, going to a global level. And so it's like you said, Ron, always attracting new people. And then Roper with the Outlaw Young Gun program is bridging that gap and making it accessible and making it inspirational too. I think not only for people to become pullers, but, to say, hey, we're that sport where you can walk right up to a kid who's doing this at, how old are you, Roper? 16, 17 years old? 17 years old, and say, hey, that can be me. And I can know that person. I can follow him on Instagram or X or Snapchat or whatever, and I can relate to him. And it's just such a great way that as we build our resume and become one of these generational sports, it's a great tool to get there. So yeah, I don't think that we would call ourselves a dying sport, but I do think Roper's right in that there is work to be done, and we have that uphill battle, and these young guns do a great job of fighting that uphill battle. Couple comments rolling in here. Chris Kilberger says it's like a pulling. It's like a disease that you can't kill. I mean, talking about
in a good way, a good disease.
Yeah, like something. Here we go. Both coming in and saying it can be a dying sport, but Outlaws is doing a great job in keeping it. Look in Europe, it is crazy popular there. It could be like that here too. Yeah, I hate to use the word dying sport, because I would actually say we are as big now as we've ever been. And I would call us a growing sport. We're just not going to go toe to toe with Monday Night Football just yet, and
not just yet.
Someday we might.
Well, I mean, they're just, there's not enough younger people compared to the people that's been doing it for a while. You'll have these people going from association to association that's older, but you don't never see, you'll see them once in a while, but there's just not enough young pullers because they think that it's cool. And then they're like, that they don't stay passionate to be able to do this later in life.
Let me ask you this. So I think a lot of pullers, you're a second generation puller. We're seeing a lot of second and third generation pullers, but you're also a young kid who knows how to talk to other young kids. If you had someone come up to you, he came up there, he said, hey, I'm 18 years old. I'm from, whatever, Southeast Missouri or something like that. And I got a diesel truck and I want to be a welder when I grow up. But he says, but I want to get into pulling. My dad didn't pull, my grandpa didn't pull, but man, what you're doing is awesome. I think one thing you guys can do is help attract these new pullers. What would you say to that kid who's like, I'm a blue collar down home guy. I get horsepower. I love it. How do I become a puller like you, to the non-generational pullers, people who weren't born into the sports?
So I would say with everything else, I'd be like, yeah, this is what I do. This is how I started out. I started out in garden tractors when I was, I think, 5 years old. And then I took a long break from it. And then my dad, when I was 15, ran a couple test passes, and then he let me in the seat. But like what I'd say is I'd be like, hey, you can come to these events, come watch and come see how we do it. Kind of like how we started out. We started out with a local association.
Yeah.
My truck used to be a Pro Street pickup back when my dad pulled it. So with that, I mean, it started from small, and then we joined Outlaws later.
I think that's important to remember for that next generation of pulling. You can look at what you guys do with the modified four-wheel drive truck, pro stock four-wheel drive truck. You can look at these big, modifieds Ron's talking about at PRI. You don't have to start there. That doesn't have to be. I think a lot of people get intimidated of pulling because they're like, this is known as world's most expensive hobby. Well, I could never own a 4-engine mod. Well, you don't have to start there. Yeah. You can start, like you said, take your Pro Street truck. Jason Wayman's a great example. First pull Jason ever won, he drove what would later become Megatron, drove it to Palmyra, Missouri, kind of told a little white lie to his parents about where he was headed, won the pull, drove that truck home, and then just kept kind of adding parts onto it. So I think that's a good point, Roper. You don't have to, it's more accessible maybe than they think.
Yeah. You start from the bottom and you got to work it up like everyone does. Sure. A lot of people like to go out there and already go buy pre-made trucks where they literally just throw some fuel in it and go down the road, go down the track with it. But some other people have dedication to build it and to be what they want to be. That's it, part
So
of.
what kind of things do you guys have brewing that you brainstormed? I know I was in the the Young Guns meeting there at the banquet, Roper.
Yeah.
And I had to leave to go to another meeting. But what kind of things did you guys talk about after I left? Did you brainstorm on some? I know you talked about the pedal tractor pulls, and also I know when I was in there, we had discussed visiting like children's hospitals and things, and bringing stuff tractors and trucks to the kids. What else do you guys have up your sleeve for 2026?
So what we more talked about for 2026 is, that'll be my last year. So we're going to have to get a new rep in to fill in my position at the end of the year. But we talked about, doing more stuff at the polls, putting more promotions out there, maybe going to a kids hospital in Kansas City and, handing this out, doing more interactions, doing hero cards for the Outlaw Young Guns, which some of us already have hero cards. But, having them as a group, like maybe one that has a picture of everyone on it. You know what I mean? Kind of like all of us in our fire suits or something. Because then I'd be like, these are your Outlaw Young Guns from the Outlaw Pulling Association.
Yeah.
And it would be a good deal, in my opinion, because then you give it out to a little kid, they're going to be like, look at this. That's cool that all these people are in it and that they're from different ages and that they all have figured it out.
Yeah. Mike was spot on earlier when he said, you in the pit area working on your truck may be more approachable to a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old, than say your dad would be, working on, not saying that your dad's not approachable. But you know what I'm saying? Just a younger, someone closer to their age, it seems more approachable to a kid. But the hero cards, definitely. Do you have a hero card, Roper?
We're in the process of getting some at the moment.
I'm really going to be upset if this next summer I don't see a sticker somewhere that says the Big Sexy Mullet Mafia pulling team.
We got to get more recruits, and see, this is a part of what we can do with the Young Gun. You can go out there. You're really going to know he's hit it big, Ron, when there's a section in the fans, and there's like all the Mullet Mafia fans up there. We got to start seeing some other Young Guns out there rocking the mullets as well, and get them all in there. But the Mullet Mafia,
they can have their own hats, Mike. The hat that has the mullet hair hanging off the back of the hat.
And I see what you're saying. Yeah, so you don't have to go full. You can put the mullet on as needed, as necessary.
You don't have to fully commit, but when you go to the pull,
yeah, this
knows who you're cheering for.
This is great. No, that's fun stuff.
You get those made. I promise you, Mike and I will wear them at say Rock Valley.
I'll announce in a mullet mafia hat. No doubt about that. I'll have some fun with that. Have you guys, as Young Guns, have you had that experience yet where you've had that kid come up to you, or even someone your own age, and walk up to you and say, "Man, I really like what I look up to you. You're my favorite truck, or you're my favorite puller." Has that happened to you or any of your Young Gun friends at this point yet? And then the other question I want to know is, who do you guys, as the Young Guns, who's your role model? Do you guys kind of collectively have a couple of pullers that you're like, oh, that's who we want to be 30 years from now?
Yeah, so I have a lot. Like about every pull, I have a lot of, younger kids ranging from, my age down to like 8 years old. I always sign autographs. I've done I've signed T-shirts. I've signed hats, hero cards, the pulling books that you can buy from Delton's trailer, and all that. But most people, some of us would look up to. So now it's like some of the older ones. So like, let's just say if you're a tractor and you look up to the people that are bigger in your class, or bigger in the tractor. So like with me, I look up at my dad because he's in the mod 4-wheel drive class, and it's a good class in general, and they all get along.
But is there one guy, when all you Young Guns, the 20, 30, 40 of you walking around the pits, bumping elbows, is there a Michael Jordan to you guys? You all look around, you're like, oh man, that one guy in puller, like Ron and I growing up, we would have someone like a Tim Engler or something, from back in the day, we would have said like, oh, that's the man. Do you walk around and say, oh, this person or that person, is just kind of the main dude, or is it class specific, like you said?
Yeah. Yeah. So in my opinion, it would be Richard, Whitey, and Donald.
Yeah.
Would be the main, because, they've been pulling for forever. Yeah. And some Doug in there too.
I think that's about the best thing. That's a great answer. Yeah. When you look at with Donald and Whitey, and then of course you got Richard in there with all the mechanic prowess he's had. If you're an Outlaw fan, those have got to be some guys you say, boy, it'd be pretty cool to have 14 national championships when I'm done with this stuff, like Whitey's got, to his credit.
Oh yeah. 100% on
Whitey's not a bad guy to get a little advice from on where to go on the track too. He's a pretty good spotter on the pulling track.
Oh yeah, he's really funny too. Like when we were sitting at banquet, we're just talking about everything that was, been changed and all that when we're inside the board meetings and all that. And he was, making me laugh and all that.
Here's a fun, I like this suggestion. Chris Kilbarger saying, just ways to involve the younger folks out there. This is something I could see going well at like a 3-day pull. He says hero cards are great, giving those out, but then like a scavenger hunt, collect autographs and prizes. Imagine like an Outlaw Young Guns program or something specific to that. You get all the autographs by the end of the weekend, and then you walk away with a hat, with a Mullet Mafia hat or a Frisbee or something like that. That's a neat concept. I like that right there.
That would be cool, honestly. I kind of did think a little bit about that, a little bit here and there, but I kind of like that idea, because if you think about it, then, like if you go to like Wisner, Thursday through Saturday, there's a lot of kids that usually always go to Wisner.
Yeah.
And when they see that, they're going to be like, oh, y'all could put on Facebook like that, or it could be a banner, or, have it announced, be like, hey, go get these Outlaw books from, whoever's, whose ever trailer, some of the Young Guns will have them books and all them. You're like, if you can get whoever gets the most autographs by all the Young Guns, by every single Young Gun that you can find there, you'll get a reward, like a hat and a signature on the hat, or, something. That's something to also bring up later down the road when we get ready to do it.
And I know some other polls and some other, sanctioning bodies have like at the big, 3-day events, they'll have like a kids morning. Like I know up at Toma, I've been up there before. And they'll have like a meet and greet, like for the kids. They do like a 9 a.m. kids come out and give them coloring books and whatnot. But I think overall, that's what you guys are doing. That's your mission. That's what you stand for, to connect to the fans, but also to spread the youth getting involved in the sport. And I think you guys are doing an awesome job with it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I love the outreach. I love lowering the age to 14. That's gonna compel some kids to want to be a part of that aren't even driving yet. I know, speaking from experience, when I was a kid, TNT, you could become an honorary member of TNT as a kid by, sending in your $20, and they'd send you a sticker, a TNT patch, and a rule book. And I did it. I still have that stuff to this day. Cool. And because there's rabid fans out there like Mike and I. We're diehards, and there are kids out there that can't get enough of it too. So I love that lowering the age could actually entice those kids a little more to become more connected to the Outlaws and to the pulling world. So Roper, your high school down there, does everybody know you're a truck puller?
So, yeah, they all do. Yeah, they have all known it for years and everything else, because I go to a very small school outside of if anyone knows where Joplin, Missouri is, I go to school in Seneca, Missouri, about 20 minutes south of Joplin. And this year I'll be graduating high school and all that, but they all mainly know me, besides truck pulling, for me driving the pickups that I drive to school.
Have you noticed a larger understanding? I think one thing Ron and I always talk about, and I think you young guns are kind of, entrusted with the mission of, is like Ron says, changing the perception of what they understand pulling to be. I tell people I'm going to a pull and they're thinking, two-cylinder John Deere's, or Ron talks about they think it's some sort of mud race. Have your friends, your buddies at your school, when they say truck pulling or tractor pulling, I mean, do they get it? Do they know what we're talking about now? Have you kind of seen that understanding grow in your area just from you being friends down there or having your truck?
Yes, I have actually. So when I first entered in ag in eighth grade year, I told my ag teacher what I wanted to do, my junior high ag teacher. And she's like, okay. Well, she didn't know much about it. So I ended up showing her videos, pictures, all that. Then she learned about it. And then my ag teacher in high school. And when my sister was in high school, she had the same ag teacher as me, and she ended up showing her all that. And because my sister also did garden tractor pulling like I did when I was little too. And that's where we both started out at. But when everyone asks where I've been or when I'm gone, or, when I'm gone out of the blue, I don't tell no teachers. I just leave. And they're like, where were you at? I'm like, I was at a truck and tractor pull. And they're like, oh, is that like putt or something? I'm like, no. I said, we have, multi-engine tractors. We have pickups that make a lot of power. We have, smoking tractors, smoking trucks. We got semis that basically pull a wheelie.
I'm gonna combine two worlds that I live in right here into any maybe of my parents of students or anyone out there watching. If you ever miss my class, is anyone coming through Mr. Idle's English class? If you ever miss my class and then you come back and you say, well, hey, I'm sorry I was gone. I was at a tractor pull. You don't have to write a book report that quarter. You get it. Roper, you would never have to write an essay for me down there if I taught in Seneca. Oh, I was at a tractor pull. You're good. You're good. We're good, buddy. So.
Oh yeah.
You missed a test on that day you were gone, Mike. Just
don't worry about it. We're covered. No, but Roper, in all seriousness, you're such a well-spoken young man. I mean, you do a great job taking your role seriously. I think you're a great liaison. You're a great representative for the Young Gun program. This is a great program, and we're excited to see where it goes in the future. What are your closing thoughts? What's the world need to know about the Young Gun program before we let you get back to some of that homework? You got school tomorrow. It's a school night, man.
So some of my thoughts are, just pay attention in life, pay attention in high school. I can't say much, but
I can tell your mom is right there. And does she make you nervous, Roper?
A little bit. She's sitting right behind me.
She's critiquing. She's saying, if you don't say it right, I'm going to let you know. She's like my mom was when I was writing those book reports. That's why Roper speaks so well, because he's well coached.
Yeah, but, finish high school, live your life to the best, and get more involved in other things.
Yeah. And
try and get involved in the Outlaw Young Guns.
Perfect.
Yep. Tell your mom that she can trust us. You're in good hands with us, Roper. I know she's rolling her eyes right now, isn't she?
She was shaking her head.
No. Well, we appreciate you coming on and doing your duties as a representative of the Young Gun program. We wish you all the best, both throughout the rest of your school year, and can't wait to see you and your whole family and both those awesome looking trucks there in the background back out on the circuit again in 2026.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Roper.
Thanks, Roper.
Always.
Roper Brown. Now, one thing we didn't talk fully about, he said he is the boy representative. Now, is that I think, do they have representatives of both the guys and the gals to kind of reach out to both sides there? Or is that broken down to just he is the main representative? How does that work, Ron?
A male and a female, they're equal. And I guess we should have asked him that. Did they vote for a girl yet for this year? I know they hadn't done that when I left the meeting that day at the banquet. So, yeah, there's generally a male and a female, and it takes two people. I mean, these kids are busy, and they're involved in other things. They're involved in FFA and high school and sports and family things and tractor pulling. So, to have two people there, to carry that load for the young guns, I think is a good thing. So Jamie Yonke's done a wonderful job. Case and Petch did a wonderful job as well.
Yeah.
Roper's doing a good job and stepping up here. So looking for big things from them. There are outreach to the youth in the Midwest and all over the world, actually, for pulling the Outlaws. We get seen all over the world. So keep up the good work, Roper. Keep up the good work. And if you ever need any help with anything, just a phone call away or a text away.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah, great program that we have with the Outlaws. Fun to just hear how they see the development of the sport, to see who they look up to, how people interact with them. I thought he hit the nail. You couldn't have answered that question much better when I said, okay, who's on your guys' Mount Rushmore? And they're like, oh, well, that's Donald and Whitey and Richard. I'm like, that's if you're an outlaw, blue blood, those are the ones. And just think about that. I mean, imagine had we been 17 years old and someone handed us the keys to a pulling truck and said, okay, week in, week out, you get to go pull next to, a Whitey Zajek or a Donald Nelson, or for us back in the day, the Banner Brothers or Art Arfons or something like that. That's a cool experience. And that's something that program is continuing to grow. And 30 years from now, two other hosts on this podcast, when we're long gone, are going to be talking to some other young gun about, hey, you get to pull next to Roper Brown, or you get to pull next to Case and Petch once these guys have built the names for themselves, which really they're well on their way to doing. If you look at, that's one thing we haven't talked about, just the raw success on the pulling track that either members of the Young Guns program or recent graduates of the Young Gun program have had. You talked about Jamie Lane, Jamie Yonke, who's been successful at the National Farm Machinery Show, Case and Petch winning a points title. Roper was in the running for Rookie of the Year. These aren't just token young kids driving. These are legitimate competitors out there too.
Yeah, and Roper, he's not really making a run at the points simply because they can't make all of the hooks running two trucks in two different classes. Those trucks are going to miss some hooks. So be interesting to see, as he's getting his chops in, and eventually we're going to see him make a run for the points. And that truck's done it before with his dad behind the wheel. So I think we're going to see a lot of success out of Roper in the years to come. He's doing a good job. That
truck, correct me if I'm wrong, that truck was the last truck not called bipolar to win a points championship. That's really been the only truck to, usurp the throne from Keith Hammonds on this dominant run that he's been on over the past 9 years. But that truck did grab a points title right in the middle of Keith's run there in 2020. So the horsepower's there, and you've watched him the same as me over the past 2 years. And from day one at Ravenna, Nebraska 2 years ago to where he is now, it's a night and day difference of the way he drives that truck. And really didn't take him long to get a feel for it.
Yeah, and being around that truck with his dad, they didn't just throw him in there. He'd been working around that truck and working on that truck, helping load and unload and cleaning the truck and things like that. So, he's paid his dues and is still paying his dues as a driver right now. But he does a good job. They have excellent equipment. But we're gonna reserve some time for the young guns here. If not every week, every couple of weeks, just see what's going on with them. We'll interview different members of the Young Guns squad there. So we want to keep those members in the spotlight here on the show. See what's going on, the outreach. We want to get more youth involved with our sport. We want to cross some lines, break some boundaries, and bring some fresh eyes into the sport of pulling.
Which I think is going to be the catalyst of how we get to where we want to go. When we do go toe to toe with, Monster Jam or football or whatever, it's going to be reaching that new target audience. We talked last week about how I'm a believer that the betting audience is going to help us get there. We're not trying to turn pulling into a betting sport. We're trying to reach the people who already prefer to do that, reach the youth. I think that's what's going to be a big step in taking us in that direction. Going to shift gears a little bit. I saw a comment I didn't put up earlier because it didn't have much to do with the interview with Roper, but I want to circle back to it because, Ron, I bet you've got thoughts on it. So Marty Samuelson, as you say, the de facto mayor out there of Ravenna, he wants to circle back to the alliance that we've been talking about with International Hot Rod Association and Pro Pulling League. And he's curious out there in central Nebraska, kind of on the edge of Western pulling, will the new affiliation, the new alliance with the other group help pulls such as Ravenna and Gibbon? Gibbon this last year, there's no secret, they didn't have the numbers that they wanted. How do you see our alliance impacting central Nebraska and really the western edge of professional pulling when you get out there to Ravenna and Gibbon?
Yeah, I think in the future, it could benefit, a Ravenna or a Gibbon, Nebraska. And you talk about it being on the edge. I mean, yeah, we have pullers in Colorado and Wyoming. But you start getting out into those big states, those big farming states like Kansas and Nebraska, you get out in the western edges and they're just not nearly as populated.
Yeah.
So, you're asking more pullers to drive a longer distance. Smaller towns usually don't draw as many people to pulling events. So, you're just not going to get the pullers on a regular basis that you would if you're closer to a metro area or a more populated area. But in the future, yeah, I think it could help, having an affiliation, having higher purses, higher payouts and such, that and a good economy, that always helps.
Yeah.
But in the short term, probably not going to see a whole lot of difference. But in the long term, yeah, I think it could help.
Yeah, I always kind of think of that same thing I've been thinking about is on these multiple day runs for these pullers. If there's a PPL Western Series pull somewhere on Thursday and it's within 100 miles of an Outlaw National Circuit pull on Friday, then the pullers who were saying maybe I go, maybe I don't because I only run Outlaw points or I only run PPL or Western Series or Silver Series, whatever points, they say, well, let's go hit both. And you have two promoters that kind of scratch each other's back, so to speak, and the pullers, they come out on top. So that's hard for me to formulate an answer because I feel like Gibbon feels like it's way out there. But I've been to Gibbon twice. One year it was, huge. It was one of the best pulls, one of the single best sessions of pulling I've ever seen. Last year, still amazing weather, still amazing track, still a great pull. Just the numbers were down. So I don't know if my model is going to play into that because I don't know that there's a Western Series pull or another Outlaw pull that's like, oh, well, the day before they're just right across the river or whatever. So
that's key right there, Mike, is I was getting ready to say something about that. The day before or the day after.
Yeah.
Those pulls way out there, in Western Nebraska, Ravenna is a 2-night pull, so you get great participation.
True.
You go out far west and you have a standalone 1 night, 1 session event. Pullers, if they're going to drive that far, they'd like to stay for a couple nights and get a couple of hooks. And, so it is a little more challenging to get, the classes that promoters want for a 1-night hook if there's nothing the night before or the night after within, 2 or 3 hours of it.
Right.
So that's key. Is, if you're going to have a standalone pull, it helps to have another one the night before or the night after.
So then you might see, instead of pulls, thriving or struggling, what I could see happening over the next 5 to 10 year period is promoters really paying attention to the calendar and saying, okay, well, we want this, but if we move it to this week or that week, that gets us closer to that other event, that maybe is down the road from us or whatever. But before it was a month before, now all of a sudden we can double them up. Either way, it's two associations that are aligning together to work together. And all these avenues of communication are open. So all these possibilities moving forward. So like Ron said, don't know what 2026 will see, but the big picture future, a lot of good possibilities.
Yeah, I would really like to see, and I think this would help a lot of those standalone events that are way out there on the the western fringe. Is I'd love to see more classes like the classic modified class, things like that we don't see very often, like a small block mini truck class, your S10s and Ford Rangers and things like that with small blocks. I would love to see more promotion of classes like that. And you were talking about it earlier, people getting involved in pulling, say, garden tractors, a class that people can get involved in that's not as hard on the pocketbook as, say, a pro stock four-wheel drive or a modified four-wheel drive. If, a mini two-wheel drive with a small block is a lot easier on your wallet than, a super modified two-wheel drive.
I've got a buddy who pulls those mini trucks, and he begs me every time he sees me. He says, "Oh, you gotta." He says, "We want to come hang out with you guys. Can we come run an exhibition with the Outlaws, or can we?" And it's one of those. But he says they prefer. Here's the interesting caveat: they prefer the mini rod sled. So
Yep.
That's one thing he says they put on a better show with the mini rod sled. But that's an interesting class right there. There's a handful of them in this area. I think they pull in the Twin States Association.
Very popular in Kentucky too.
Yeah, down there. I see. Well, some of these indoor pulls that we're getting ready to see on Full Pull Live, usually that come around this time of year, I think we see a good hitting of them down there. Yeah, that's a unique one. That's a fun one to kind of promote and put out there. No doubt about it.
Yep, Mike, I can't see the comments, so you're in full control here, buddy.
Yep, we're just about caught up. We got 3 we haven't hit yet. Yeah, Chris Kilbarger says Monster Jam has a Young Gun series as well that he says is very successful. Zook Fukerberg, Doug Votes, agreeing with you, like the minis with the small block. And then Marty Samuelson, right on par with what we were talking about, says, does Given need to move their date because of the other pull that is that weekend? That's Ron. That's more of a you. I know you're more heavily involved in the schedule than I am, and I'm always hesitant with questions like this.
I think I kind of answered it already. Anytime you can have a pull that you're trying to draw pullers from out of the state or from the other side of the state, anytime you can bridge that pull with another pull in consecutive nights, it is always going to be helpful competitor wise, getting them to come there. So do they need to move their pull? If they're set on their date, I can't compel a promoter to move. Fairs, of course, you can't compel a fair to move a date.
Right.
But it's just one of those challenges with the schedule that we face is everybody has a different pattern they use every event. Some of them are the first full weekend of July. Some are this many weekends after the 4th of July or this many weekends before Labor Day. I mean, and when you do it like that, you're going to have in certain years, they're going to have pulls falling on top of pulls. They're going to be moving away from other pulls. So it is very challenging to make that schedule work with all those different patterns of how they schedule their events.
Here's a fun one coming in here from Cole Lundahl. Says he's been looking back at older photos from Rock Valley and Wisner from around 7 to 8 years ago, and it's amazing to look back and see how events and classes have been added or changed over the years. I never thought we'd see twin turbines in the modified class. Outlaw has grown in leaps and bounds for sure. It is, Ron, that's something you've probably seen a lot of, just the evolvement of what a specific event or an evolvement of, what it looks like in general as the classes and as an event change. That he's got a good point. That's got to be neat to see how that changes from year to year. Yeah.
The willingness to think outside the box, and that doesn't just come from the organization. That comes from the pullers as well. The pullers vote on their class rules, at the banquet, and, they understand for the most part, pullers do, that, hey, we need to do this to keep fans engaged. And people probably get tired of hearing me say it, but I don't like cookie cutter. Right. Something as such as a modified tractor class, I love to see variety, and the crowd loves variety. That's always something that draws them. The light modified class, you're not going to find more variety than you in any class than you will our light limited modified class. Fans love that. So thinking outside the box and, taking a chance, allowing the twin turbines to come in there and pull, I think it speaks volumes to the success of the Outlaws.
Would you rather see a show, speaking of variety, because sometimes variety for me is the variety of classes at a specific pull. Would you rather see an 80 hook show? Let's say two 80 hook pulls, and then pull one has 10 classes, 2-track show, and there's 8 pullers per class, or it has 8 classes with 10 pullers per class. And then pull B has, I don't know, whatever the math is, 4 classes, and then each of those classes has 20 or 25 in it. I think fans kind of like to okay, hey, we've seen 10
12 to 15, I think 12 to 15 is.
Let's go look at some smoke. Let's look at that. But I tell you, I've been to Bowling Green like most pulling fans have, and 60 pro stocks or 60 anything it's a
75,
lot.
75 two-wheel drives one year.
That's a lot. So sometimes I think variety can also look like the classes that are being presented, because you could have 80 hooks at 2 different pools, but one of them you might have sat there and watched 35, something go down the track. And there's a time and place for all of that. Give me 35 modified 4-wheel drive trucks and 35 limited pro stock tractors at Wisner, Nebraska every day of the week. And I will sit up there, or even the light limited pro stocks, and I will grab that track and announce that and be the happiest person ever. But sometimes too, I like to say, okay, that was a great class of 10. We got 7 other classes of 10. This is going to be a fun night. You know what I'm saying? I like variety of classes as well.
Yeah. And it's, sometimes it's fun. There a couple of years ago, we had 23 4-wheel drives at Wisner, modified 4-wheel drives. And that's cool when that happens. Those trucks are unique, but ideally, I think 15 is a great number, 12 to 15 in a class. Are we going to try to regulate it at that? No.
No.
We're happy to have every puller that comes. If it did get up to 75 in a class, we probably would have to do something, because you would wear your audience out. I think.
I really think you do. Yeah. Your audience, they'll hang around. I think one of the greatest things Kurt Van Beek, told me that I understood about pulling, or helped me to understand about pulling. He said, I'll remember what he said. He goes, but by 10 o'clock, I think he said that the time was 10 o'clock. He's a businessman. He thinks about these things. By 10 o'clock or by 3 hours or whatever, the fans need to physically be able to see the end of the show. They need to see the last class scaling, or they need to see that there's, so many. But if 10 o'clock rolls around, regardless of what time the show started, and they look down and they're like, man, they pull up the app, because we have the Outlaw app, and they're like, man, we're only halfway through this class. Yeah, how often, Ron, do we see a lot of those fans saying, you know what, we'll watch the rest of it from home or something?
That's me. That's been my thing, Mike.
Those your words? They were.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like, if you went to a movie and it was 5 hours long and you left with an hour to go, you're going to feel a little less satisfied that you went and spent the first 4 hours watching that movie and you still didn't see what the heck happened. So there's something about seeing the finality of it. You go to a football game and it's a really good game, but it lasts so long, you got to leave and you have no idea how it ended. That kind of sticks with you a little bit. There's something about seeing that final field goal, that, the clutch field goal that wins the game in a football game. It's the same thing in a tractor pull. There's something about the finality of seeing the whole thing and getting your money's worth, So, I'm always going to preach 3 to 3.5 hours. So fans can see the whole thing. And here, once again, we're looking at putting new fans in the seats, new butts in the seats. And, they're not diehards like we are.
Yeah.
They didn't grow up on pulling. We're trying to bring them in and say, hey, look at our great sport that you've never actually sat down and watched. Sit down here and watch this with your family and your kids and your little ones. And by the way, it's going to be 6 hours. That just doesn't go well. Yeah. So trying to recruit new fans, new spectators, we have to understand that they're not in it. They're not diehards like we are. Every puller that's out there pulling is a diehard. Mike, and I will sit there if it's 30 degrees in the back row of the grandstand, drinking our beer, waiting on the last tractor to come,
And sometimes it's important to remember we're almost not, we are, but we aren't, you don't have to sell this product to you and I or the Cole Lundahls and the Marty Samuelsons of the world, because they're already convinced. They love it. You just have to make sure that you're maintaining your quality. You got to sell it to the people like you said that aren't convinced yet. I think pace of pull, time of show, but I think also breaking it into, hey, it's long, but we're changing it up all the time. Hey, you sat for 40. The other thing I love is, can we keep a class at or under an hour? I think that's always a really good thing. Can we do a class in 45 minutes? If every 45 minutes you're showing them something new, they're more apt to stick to the end. And then of course that's, they're buying cheeseburgers and soda pop and whatever. And that's, everybody wins if the fans are staying there and they're going back. Like you said, I think that final taste in their mouth and they're telling fans it was awesome. Not, it got long. That's a big deal, because word of mouth, I still think, is probably the primary way that pulling builds its reputation right now.
Yeah, so, attention spans aren't getting longer; they're only getting shorter.
Oh, I completely agree.
They're only getting shorter.
Completely agree. Got some comments about this here. Josh Atterbury says, always like seeing a pull that has close to the same amount of truck classes as it does tractor classes. Chris Kohlberger said, I just did a mini modified highlight reel for Bowling Green that had 54 hooks. He said it got mind numbing. And then Ben Beller just loved, he's staying on our good team right here. He says our great announcers also help keep a crowd. Well, we appreciate that comment. Honestly, what we do, that's part of just keep a crowd engaged. And we'll look at each other sometimes and say, hey, we're losing them, or they're getting flat, and you got to bring them back around. And pace of pull helps that, when you don't have 7 minutes between hooks, that's, which rarely with the Outlaws are we ever in that position. But that makes our jobs a lot easier,
About 15 an hour is a good pace on one track.
Yeah.
But just the rule of thumb and that I keep in my mind, 15 an hour. If we're going fewer than 15 an hour, we're dragging a little bit. So that's a good
I think, and like you said, Seth, spot on. You like to see 15 in a class as an ideal number. I like to see a class wrapped up within an hour, all that, moves and grooves right there. So, Ron, we've made it to about 8:06. You're having a good time in PRI. Are you on East Coast time there?
On Eastern time, yeah.
Eastern time. So it's 9 o'clock where you
close
are.
To my bedtime here, Mike.
That we both know that is entirely not the case. I was just about to say you're just really starting to hit your stride. You're the night owl of the two of us, but I
don't know. After watching the Chiefs game the other night and then waking up at 2:30 in the morning and heading out at 3:30 to the airport and not getting any sleep, I'm feeling it.
You're ready to be horizontal for a little bit.
I have some contract work to do here before I go to bed, but it's been quietly calling my name back there here for a little bit.
There you go.
After walking all day, I don't know how many steps I did today, but I've walked all around this town and all around Lucas Oil Stadium and the Indiana Convention Center looking at things. But it's a heck of an experience. If you're a gearhead, you got to come to this sometime. It's really cool.
Yep. Well, we'll let you. I'd say that I've got nothing left in my bag of tricks, right, unless there's anything that you need to tell the faithful fans. Still got a great crowd watching. Still got big numbers all hanging with us throughout the whole thing. So, like always, we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Share this and push it around out there, and just know that pulling is 1 week closer to being back. So, Ron?
I love seeing those big numbers on there. I like seeing the new fans coming in and chiming in. And if you're watching and you haven't commented, next week, 7 p.m. Central Time, come on. And if you have a question, ask it. If you have a comment, say it. So we want to hear from you, the pulling fans out there. So, Mike, thanks for getting the show started tonight.
No problem.
I appreciate it. I'll be here all week in Indy and actually get to go see a super stock diesel engine super stock diesel truck engine being dynoed on Monday here in Indiana, Mike. So that'll be cool. Maybe I can get a little video from that if they'll let me. But then I'll be back, hopefully back Tuesday and ready to rock and roll for Tuesday night. So, Mike, thank you. Thanks to all the fans, all the super fans out there and all the new ones as well. Thanks, Roper Brown, for coming on. Join us next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time on Outlawed Live.